Okay, well, hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Cole McFerrin. I'm the Associate Director of Academic Technology and Innovation here at University of Arizona Global Campus, and I'll be the host for today's session, IQR IRL, the benefits of live one-on-one instructional quality reviews. By joining us today, you acknowledge that the session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for the presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat, please. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, please click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. And now I'm pleased to introduce you today to Dr. Dan Tignano and his presentation, IQR IRL, the benefits of live one-on-one instructional quality reviews. Dan, take it away.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I apologize. My voice is a little rough today. Um, I would like to give my thanks to the TLC committee for this great conference and, of course, for letting me use the beautiful TLC executive boardroom that I'm presenting from today. I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself and my background because I think in this case, it does have a bearing on what I'll be talking about today. I will be celebrating my 11th anniversary as a full-time member of the faculty here at UAGC 2 weeks from yesterday on November 18th. But prior to that, I had no online teaching experience, and all of my teaching was in the traditional college classroom. And one of the things that I kind of struggled with at first was losing the connection that you have with your colleagues in a traditional campus, where I still, I have fond memories of just on the spur of the moment going a couple doors down, asking another colleague, let's go get a drink in the student union building, soft drink, I should explain, and being able to just chat and with no agenda in mind. And that kind of opportunity presents possibilities that might not come up in other ways. So I think I was kind of focused on, as I moved into online education, into bringing as much of that back as I could. Now, until about 4 years ago, I actually had office space here in Denver. You may know that UAGC had office space in a number of places in the US, and there were about a dozen of us faculty who I saw almost every day. And again, we could have that casual, let's go grab a coffee at Starbucks, let's go have lunch together, or I'm bringing lunch back from Subway if you want some. And as I get farther away from having that office, I find myself missing it more and more. And there are only limited possibilities for restoring what we can of what we lack in that regard when we move from a traditional office and classroom based campus to a distributed online school like UAGC is. And a lot of things that I've tried and things that I've done and things that have been successful and a few that haven't have been motivated by trying to bring that back. And what I'll be talking about today is certainly not the only example of it, but it might be the latest example. And one of the ones where, for me personally, I feel like the potential impact of it has been the most dramatic. I am a program chair, which means that I am responsible for doing instructional quality reviews once a year for the faculty that I oversee. And because I'm on a very large team, I'm occasionally asked to do IQRs for faculty that I don't oversee, which gives me, I think it gives me a good opportunity to make sure that I'm being consistent in the way that I do these IQRs when I'm looking at another content area instructionally. But honestly, it's not my favorite part of the job. I have to motivate myself to do it. I have to put the IQR in my calendar and really almost kind of force myself to follow through on it and not come up with an excuse to do it. Um, and on top of that, I don't know that there's that many of our associate faculty, or to use the term that Haley did in the session that just ended, affiliate faculty, um, who look forward to getting those. And I have no idea of if no one writes back after I shared the IQR report with them, I don't even know really if they read it. So that's doesn't help with that motivation factor. And as I mentioned before, beyond the issue of evaluating, there's this whole issue of connecting. How can we connect with the individuals and create a sense of team and community when none of us are in the same place? And that's a real challenge. But what if we could turn the IQR process into an opportunity to build community? And I wish I could share with you how the idea originally occurred to me to do this, but I no longer recall. I think it popped into my head and I liked it and I started running with it, and I don't know as much about how the idea was generated in the first place as how it was sort of built up as a process. So the live IQR process begins, of course, with an email to the faculty that I'm going to be reviewing, offering them the option of the live one-on-one session. And I would say at this point, about half of the faculty pool that I oversee opt to do the live session, and about half opt not to. The advantages of the live IQR is that it's synchronous, it's interactive, compared to the way that I did them before, where I'm sitting by myself in a room, looking through someone's section, writing notes down. It's not very interactive. It's engaged because of the interactivity, because it's synchronous, because there is this person-to-person connection going on. It's very engaged. And it is an opportunity, a rare opportunity to connect with the one of the faculty members that I work with one-on-one for an extended period. In the past, before I started doing this, those opportunities for one-on-one didn't come up very often. They would be short calls to address a concern in an area, or we would do group meetings, which were often not very well attended. I would be very impressed if I had half of my teaching pool showing up for a live meeting of some sort. So, I would record them and make the recording available afterwards. So the live IQR has a lot of advantages to offer, I believe. However, there are some challenges that come into play. And for me, at least, I find that it is a challenge to devote attention to doing the review that I have to do and to looking at all the aspects in that class and going through things and still communicate and especially listen effectively. If the listening was not a part of it, and of course it should be, and it is part of it, it would probably be a little bit easier to just sort of narrate my thought process as I'm going through um, this section of the class that I'm reviewing. But you can't be taking notes and you can't remember everything after the fact. Now, I'm in my second year of doing live IQRs, and I wanted to present this at I wanted to present this at TLC before I knew what the topic of TLC was, because from the first year of doing this, the potential of it was very clear to me. And of course, at that point, we're talking about over a year ago now, the the theme of this year's TLC conference certainly hadn't been announced, might not have been decided. I wanted to share it because I think it's high potential and I think it's good for people to know about. But as it just so happens, it is also very much tied to this idea of creating belonging, not in the sense of creating belonging for students, which so many of our sessions are focused on, but really creating that sense of belonging within a team. So in the first year, the potential was clear, but the process is different for me now than it was in that first year. In the first year, I did the session live, I recorded it. I didn't worry about taking notes. What I would do is I would go back after the live session had ended. You wait for the recording to show up from Zoom after it's processed. And at some point, as quickly as I could after the session, I would watch the playback and take notes from the playback. And it was a good process, but it was a little time consuming, and just speaking for myself, and I think other people would probably agree with this. When you're viewing a recording of something that you just participated in, maybe your attention wanders more than it should at times. So I really had to focus on focus, if you know what I mean by that a little bit odd expression. So this year I added something new in this very timely way because of everything that's going on with AI. And I don't want to get too much into all the issues that AI have raised across the spectrum, not just in education, but in so many areas. I just really want to talk about how I've tapped into it for the IQR process now in my year two of doing live one-on-one IQRs. Now, they recently activated Zoom tools for us. And you do, if I believe the owner of the meeting, the person who set up the meeting in Zoom gets the AI summary. That's my understanding, that's my experience. And it's a good summary, but it's not as helpful as another tool that I found. And that tool you may have heard of, you may not have heard of, and there may be alternate tools that can do the same thing. But the tool I've ended up using is Otter AI. Which is either at otterai.com or otter.ai or possibly at both. Otter AI does a lot of the same stuff that the AI tools in Zoom does, but as far as I know, you can't do this in Zoom. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, and you can do this in Zoom, maybe someone can let me know in the chat. But after you finish the meeting and it's finished its analysis and writes, the transcript is available first, and then the AI summary is available later, you can actually ask questions of the AI summary. And this is what I've been leaning on to help me prepare the IQR report that ends up being submitted rather than watching a replay. And I find it is much more effective and efficient with time. So I mean, you want one of those things is good, but getting both of them is really more rare than I think we all wish it would be. So it does make writing the final report more streamlined, and it helps remember details. That the AI focuses in on the more salient points or the more frequently repeated things, and then by engaging in this almost interview process with Otter AI, you can get at the things that maybe aren't coming out effectively or strongly enough in the automatically built AI summary. Um, of course, you still need to write the report based on the information that you get, but it speeds things along in terms of remembering what you said about this or that or the other thing during the live call. So the typical prompt that I would use with Otter AI is something like, please organize the content from the meeting into 5 areas. And these are the 5 areas that I know that the IQR process is being reworked, but we're still using these 5 criteria this year: the fostering critical thinking, instructive feedback to students, high expectations, establishing relationships, and instructor expertise. For each area, also indicate any mentions of performance ratings, such as introductory, developing, proficient, or distinguished, that I might have made during the call. And I don't always do that, but sometimes I do. I tend to go through the IQR process in a slightly different order than this order, the order they are in the form, but I do tend to cover them one at a time. And then there's a little bit of a transition where it's sort of, I'm talking about two at once before going fully into the next area. So this is a good prompt to separate out what was said after the fact into the areas that I need to report on. And of course, I have to write the report from what I get back. This is a screen capture from Otter AI. The name of the associate faculty member has been blurred out, but this is just the summary. I didn't capture the interview, the chat with Otter AI part of it, but this is the kind of information that you get back. It's not always completely on the mark. I sometimes get the course this was for is Calm 200. I sometimes see in the transcript it's referred to as CALM, Calm 200, which is it's a nice way of thinking about the course, maybe. Um, so it does make, and sometimes it doesn't know the name of the person you're talking to or makes mistakes, but it's the accuracy is fairly high, and the mistakes it makes are usually pretty easy to catch. Now, as I mentioned before, I start with the offer. So for my I have IQRs to do in November. So I think last Friday I sent out emails to those faculty members offering them the choice. And about half want to do the live session, about half want to do not live session. So if you opt out, I do everything the same way. So I will go live on Zoom by myself and I'll do the whole process with Otter AI observing. It's just that that associate faculty member won't be with me. So there won't be the give and take, there won't be the engagement or the interactivity, but as much as possible, I keep the process the same so that I'm trying to evaluate everyone as close to the same terms as I possibly can. And I also draft the review report the same way that I would. It's just that I can't comment on the aspects that come up specifically from the dialogue nature of the live review. And then I do share with everyone. I share the recording link. Um, I think this year, because last year I didn't have the AI summary, this year I'll be sharing the AI summary as well, with a caveat that this is the raw, unedited AI summary. It makes mistakes, but here it is for your review. So that's what, in addition to my report, they get all the raw material that it's based on as well. Um, I, as I said before, I was sold on the value of doing IQRs this way the first time. And now I can maybe outline the benefits having gone through what the process is one more time. It does give you that one-on-one time. These sessions typically last about 45 minutes, which is it would be very difficult for me to think of any time that I talked one-on-one with a member of my teaching team for 45 minutes before I started doing this. So the level and amount of engagement is superior to what was available before. Things come out in a live session that could never come out any other way. One example is, I'll bring something up about something that happened with this one student, and that instructor, even though this section may have ended 4 or 5 months ago, this instructor has immediate recall of what was going on in that student's life, which is really impressive to me. That could never come out doing an IQR the way that we had traditionally done them in the past. And that's just one example of the type of thing that you can learn from this process that I just can't imagine a way of learning it using the way that I was doing these the year before last. It provides an opportunity to ask questions in both directions and to discuss the course. Organically, maybe suggestions will come up that will impact the next revision of COM 200 or Speech 103, the other course that I oversee. And as I've refined the process, I would say it does not take up much more time for me to do the live session than it used to take for me to do an IQR the way I did it the year before last. So I'm guessing that maybe some people who think this sounds interesting may have been thinking sounds like it's going to take longer. It really doesn't. I mean, there may be people who can rush through a review faster than I prefer to do them, but I think 45 minutes to an hour is how long I typically spent on an IQR, with some being a little longer. And usually it would be a little bit shorter, was a faculty member who I knew was doing really good work and quickly confirmed that with that review. that might be a 20 or 30-minute, pretty rare, faster traditional IQR. So that's the process. I'm happy to take the 5 or so remaining minutes for any questions. I also I made this link shortener, tinyurl.com/TLC Otter AI, because they do offer teacher pricing for Otter AI. I want to say from memory, I've had my account for about half a year. I think I paid $96 for a year to get that added feature of being able to ask it questions. And of course, you can use it for other things other than uh, than reviews as well. But I did want to share that because I definitely wanted to mention that they offer educator pricing. But I'm happy to take any questions. I think Cole has a couple polls as well that we can put up while we are looking at any questions that come in.
I do. I'll
Haley,
get those
I'm
put.
gonna I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I think Haley, you had your hand raised.
I do it if it's okay if I unmute. Okay, so I was a few minutes late, but I heard you've been doing this for 2 years, correct?
This is the second year. This year, the major thing I added was the AI integration.
Right. Okay. So I'm very fascinated by that because, well, two things. I'm very fascinated by that because I would be so interested if you combined all the Zoom, right, will give you a script now for the transcript, I mean. It'd be so interesting to take all of your transcripts and analyze them for trends using AI, right? About questions that come up, sentiment analysis, something like that. But also, I'm interested in seeing if you've seen faculty like an increase in the evolution of their teaching practices because you are meeting with them one on one. Like, are the results of the IQR changing?
I would say that they are. I would say yes, but I would also say like I'm trying other things to create community that are new in the
Mm-hmm.
picture. I'm using Viva Engage, which is a tool that's available but not officially supported. But you can use Viva Engage. So I have a Viva Engage group for my teaching pool. I also have a Viva Engage group for the Teachnology sessions that I do once a month. If I can plug, that's coming up a week from tomorrow for the next one. Um, so I don't know that it's just that, but creating that community and creating that sense of belonging within the small group of teachers that I oversee as a community is definitely having impacts that I'm seeing. And I think um, it's making, for one thing, I did some hiring and I brought a lot of new instructors in for this speech class. And my feeling is they're integrating into that community much faster than they would have before I started doing that. That's the Viva Engage piece. That might be something I can talk about next year's TLC.
Well, that is exciting. That's exciting to see the fruits of your labors, and I so appreciate the nod to the time commitment, and that this really doesn't take more time. But now we are also hearing it's delivering greater results, improved results, different results. So that's
Well, and
exciting.
the other thing is for me personally, like I look forward to doing these live review sessions in a way that I did not look forward to doing the way I was doing them a couple years ago. And I definitely want to mention and offer for anyone who does conduct uh, instructional quality reviews, if you would like to reach out to me for more information about how I'm doing them, I'm sold on this way, and I would love to see more people start doing them this way. And I would love to see it become the rule rather than
Sure.
the exception. And it's never going to be mandatory. There'll always be the opportunity to opt out. But I feel like anyone who tries doing it, it might be the first few times, need a little time to sort of get your footing. But I think after that, the people doing the reviews, I feel most of us would be sold that this has got way more benefits than the
And
traditional way.
so I hear you saying that you enjoy this approach better? That you enjoy it more, not better. You enjoy it more than what you've done in the past. And can you say more about why that is?
Um, because it has this very natural way to connect with one-on-one and just to get a sense of who they are, which you couldn't get in a 5-minute call to deal with some sort of pressing issue. But it has to go back with what I said at the beginning of the session of missing being in the office and having people to go talk to.
Mhm.
The majority of my day is sitting alone in a room by myself with my dog behind me. At least I have the dog for company, right?
Sure.
So it's social interaction is motivating for a lot of people, and I think, no less so for me.
Thank you.
I don't want to run over the end of the time.
No, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing all of this, Dan. This has been just another, fantastic way that technology is able to enhance. I mean, that's kind of been the dream of AI, isn't it? Like it's going to free up our time for more things. So this is helping you do the paperwork while you really get to do the connecting piece when it used to be just more paperwork, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing this today, and thanks to our audience for participating.
Thank
I
you.
did post a quick link in the chat. So please use the survey link in the chat to nominate TLC presentations for conference awards and share your feedback on this presentation, and we will see you in upcoming presentations at TLC. Thanks so much for joining us today.
You get the backgrounds on the Hoover app in the discussions.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.